morning and welcome to Year 4 Maths for Monday the 7th of February. Now today we are going to be moving on to a brand new chapter, chapter 5, and this chapter is about graphs. So our want for today is to be able to draw and read picture graphs and bar graphs. To start the day, we would like you to complete this Give Me 5. Today you can see there are two sets of Give Me 5 questions. There are 1-star challenge and a 2-star challenge. So if you'd like to give yourself a bit more of a challenge today, you can go for the 2-star questions. If you finish within the 5 minutes, you can have a go at this extension question down here. So find yourself a timer, pause the video and give yourself 5 minutes to have a go at these questions. Okay, hopefully you've given yourself 5 minutes to complete the Give Me 5 questions and you're ready to see the answers. So here are the answers to both the 1-star and the 2-star questions, and also the answer to the extension at the bottom. So the answer to the extension is that Teddy has subtracted 1 rather than one group of 3. He should have calculated 20 times 3 equals 60, 60 take away 1 times 3 equals 57. So well done if you spotted that mistake. So today we are looking at picture graphs and bar graphs. So let's have a look at the in focus task. The table shows the number of cupcakes sold in a shop on a particular day. What types of graphs can we draw to show this information? So I want you to have a think about what information is given in the table. What do we find out? What would this information be useful to and why? And what other ways could this data, so the information in the table, how could that be presented in a different way? So pause the video, have a bit of a think about maybe other ways you've seen data maybe similar to this presented in a different way. Okay, let's go through the in focus task. So what information is given in the table? Well, we can see that it tells us how many cupcakes were sold in a shop on one day. We can see how many chocolate, strawberry, banana, orange and vanilla flavour cupcakes were sold, and we can see how many each flavour sold. How would this information, who would this information be useful to and why? Well, there could be lots of reasons why this information would be useful. It could be for other shops or other cake makers who were looking at selling cupcakes and wanted to know what was the most popular flavour for that shop. So that could help them with what flavours they were going to sell. You might have thought of some different ideas as well, why this information would be useful. What other ways could this data be presented? So at the moment, this data is presented in a table. We can see at the top the different flavours and at the bottom the number sold. You might have thought of different graphs that you could use to present this data. You may have thought about picture graphs, bar graphs, line graphs, maybe a pie chart. There are lots of different ways that we could present data in. Today, though, we're going to look at picture graphs and bar graphs. Let's have a look at these. Okay, we can see at the top here that this is a picture graph, which you may have seen before. I want want you to have a think though, having a look at this graph. Is it easy to read? And if it is, why? Or if it isn't, also why? And how could it be improved? So again, have a think, pause the video. How easy is this graph to read? Okay, let's have a look at this graph then. So we can see that this side of the graph is telling us the number of cupcakes, and at the bottom are the different flavours, which we can clearly see. That part is easy to read. Is it easy to read the amount of cupcakes? Whereas before we knew exactly how many cupcakes were sold for each flavour. For this one, is it easy to be able to tell that this is 80 cupcakes sold? Well, at the side we can see here, and this is called the scale. The scale is that one cupcake equals, so is worth 4 cupcakes. So each individual cupcake is worth 4 cupcakes sold. So to work this out, we could count up in our fours, or we could use our 4 times table to help us work out how many cupcakes were sold. But is that an easy way to read the data? Could there be another way that we could improve this graph to make it easier to read? Especially when it comes to the vanilla. So we can see we've got half a vanilla cupcake here. So that tells us that that's worth 2. Is that easy to read? So how it could be improved is maybe the scale could be changed. Because at the moment, there are too many pictures on this graph to make it easy to read. So if we have a look at a different graph, what's different here? So just move this. There we go. Is this a better representation of the data that we've just seen? Have a look. What is the scale? Is it easy to show the given numbers of cupcakes? Okay, so we might think this is a better representation of the data because there's not as many pictures, so it makes it easier to work out the number of cupcakes. We can see the scale that's told to us at the top is 10. So 1 cupcake is worth 10 cupcakes. So we can see for the chocolate, there are 8 cupcakes, each worth 10. And we know that that means there are 80 chocolate cupcakes altogether. So that is quite easy to read. However, when we have a look at the vanilla or even the strawberry, it's quite difficult to show 68 and 48 cupcakes because you've got to split that 1 cupcake that's worth 10 into smaller parts, and that's quite difficult to see what that is worth. Okay, so although the 10 cupcakes might be easier, for instance, the chocolate flavour, for the others, it's quite difficult to know what that is worth. So what about if the scale was changed to 8? Would that be a good choice? If we think about the numbers, we've got 64, 48, 24 and 42. Would it be easier to use the scale 8 instead? Okay, now we can have a look at the bar graph. So it's the same data, the same amount of cupcakes. And the question is, which one of the graphs is easiest to read? So think back to the picture graph we've just looked at, and this one, which one is easier to read? Okay, some of you may have thought that the bar graph is easier to read because we get more of an accurate result at the side. because we can see at the side the number of cupcakes again, and we can clearly measure our bar to the number, and we can see here that's 80, 64, 48, 24 and 42. So it's easier to read how many cupcakes. When we're looking at a bar graph, it's really important to have a look at what it's going up in at the side. So we can see it's going up in 8s. Okay, and that's made it easier for us to be able to read how many cupcakes were sold. The question is, can we use 1 centimetre to represent 1 cupcake? So here we can see 1 centimetre, that represents 8. Would we be able to just use it for 1 cupcake? Well, if 80 is our amount of chocolate cupcakes, if we were doing just 1 cupcake for each centimetre, that would be a very large bar graph, wouldn't it? So it might not be the easiest way to draw a bar graph. So that's why we have to think carefully about what our graph could go up in. Okay, it needs to be equal amounts. This is going up in 8s each time, which makes it easier to read. So here is the same data again, all in bar graphs. And we can see that it's the same because we've got 80 for our chocolate, the amounts are the same. What is different about these bar graphs though? Well, we can see that what's different about the bar graphs is they're all in different orders. You can see the chocolate ones first here, it's last there, in the middle. But does it matter which order we put them in for a bar graph? Does it matter? Well, we can see here that there's 4 different ways to show the same bar graph, and it doesn't matter because we can still read exactly the same data by putting them in different orders. Okay, now we'd like you to try worksheet 1, which is on pages 143 and 144. If you would like some more practice first, then continue with this video and I'm going to go through the guided practice together with you. If not, pause the video now and have a go at the worksheet. If you finish the worksheet, then you can try the extension sheet. So before you go, let's have a look at the worksheet. Okay, so we've got 2 pages for this worksheet. This first one, again, it's given us the table with the amounts of, this time it's burgers, and your first job is to fill in the bar graph. Okay, now when we're completing bar graphs or any graphs, actually it's really important to use a ruler. Okay, and that's going to give us those nice straight lines, which is going to make it really accurate to be able to read our graph. So make sure you use a ruler when filling this information in. And look carefully at what is going up in at the side. Okay, so I can see on Wednesday it's 73. So have a think about where 73 would go on this graph. And then the second page, it's already got a graph filled out for you here, and this one's about chicken pies. How many chicken pies were sold? And this time you've got 4 questions to answer about the information on the graph. So make sure you read them carefully, okay? Because sometimes those questions can trick you out. So read it carefully and then try and answer the question. This one at the bottom, D, asks you to explain your answer. So it wants you to look at the previous graph about burgers that you will have filled in and look at this graph about chicken pies, and it wants you to answer which one is more of a popular choice, and it wants you to explain your answer. So don't just put in chicken pies or burgers. why is it that answer? So can you prove your answer by using the information in the graphs? Okay, so if you're feeling confident, have a go at that worksheet now. If you'd like some more practice, we'll go through guided practice together. Okay, so Elliot started drawing a bar graph to show the number of cupcakes sold in the shop on that particular day. He used 1 centimetre to represent 10 cupcakes. So we can see here, all the way up there, that 1 centimetre equals 10. So first of all, can we complete Elliot's graph? Okay, so we're using the same information as we saw in the in focus task. So we know that chocolate, there are 80 cupcakes. Okay, so you're going to use a ruler to be able to do this. But we can see at the top here, that's 80. So we can mark 80 at the top here, and then we can join it down to meet our chocolate bar. Okay, strawberry one's already filled out for us, that's 64. Banana, let's have a look. So banana is 48 cupcakes. Now, there isn't 48 on here, but I need to look, where does that 48 fit into on this graph? Well, 48 is in between 40 and 50. So we can think, well, 45 is going to be halfway, and 48 is in the middle of that. So it's about 3/4 of the way. So about here. Now yours will be more accurate than mine, because you'll be able to use a ruler to do this. Okay, and then you can bring it down to join the banana. Okay, you could always split your 1 centimetre into 10 parts, so it's a little bit more accurate for you to do. The orange is 24, so again I think, where does that fit into my graph? Well, 24 is in between 20 and 30, and we already said about halfway. Well, halfway is 25, so it's just going to be below halfway. And then the last one, vanilla, is 42. So have a think, where does that go on our graph? Well, it's going to go in between 40 and 50, and it's going to be nearer to 40. So we can put it here. Okay, so number 1 has been completed. Number 2, the question is, among the 5 flavours, which one sold the least and which one sold the most? So you can use your filled graph to work out which one sold the least and which one sold the most. And the bar graph is really good at that. And we can see clearly that orange sold the least with 24. And chocolate sold the most. Chocolate sold the most with 80. And then your third question is, how many cupcakes were sold that day? So we need to add up all of the amounts that were sold. And it tells you here, pair the numbers up so that it is easy to add mentally. So have a look which ones are easier to add together, so you could do it mentally. So you might do it a different way. I would add 80 and 24 together, and that gives me 104. I would then add 64 and 42, and that gives me 106. So I can add those two amounts together to get 210. Then I've got to just add that 48 on, which gives me 258. So there were 258 cupcakes sold. If you don't feel confident working those out mentally, then you can always write them down and use column addition as well to help you. Okay, So now have a go at the worksheet. Give yourself enough time, and then when you've finished, if you're feeling daring, have a go at the extension questions. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at the extension questions as well, and remembered to explain as well. Okay, so here are the answers. So here is the graph filled out for you. Well done if you remember to use a ruler. And then on page 2, so there were 74 chicken pies sold on Monday and Tuesday, so you had to add those amounts together. The most chicken pies were sold on Friday, and the least number of pies were sold on Tuesday. There were 24 more chicken pies sold on Thursday than on Wednesday. So there you would have had to find the difference between Thursday and Wednesday. And which was more popular? So burgers, because they sold in consistently higher numbers. Like here we can see on every day they sold higher than the chicken pies. Okay, so well done if you got those right. And then here are the answers to the extension questions as well. Fantastic if you got those right as well. So well done for working really hard today on your Monday maths.